All right, this is the last song on the Broke Royals record, Campr. It's called Waited So Long, and if you've been following along, you know we've been going through every song on the Broke Royals record. This is the album closer. It's a little bit more of an emotional song, so as opposed to just breezing through a quick mix tip or production tip for you, I want to go through what I think are the subtle things that added up to make this song great. It's one of the mixes that I'm proudest with from this record. It's one of the mixes I'm proudest with in general. It's a beautiful song that I'm so proud of. Our singer and his wife who wrote the initial song, and our guitarist, and everybody that added layers into this song coming together and making this something really special. And there's little things that went into the production and the mix that I think made it really great. And some of them came from me, a lot of them didn't. And so I just want to share those with you. Now, the big thing before we get into this, I just want to drive home. This is a theme from hopefully this whole series, but in particular with this video today, is that great mixes, the difference between an okay mix and a great mix are little things. If you get little things wrong, it makes a mix less good. If you get little things right, it makes it even better. And most of the things that we're going to talk about today are not big transformative mix tips. It's not just do this and it's going to be great. It's the subtle things that up. And that's the way that mixing just is. It's just subtle things, little things that stack together to create an amazing mix. I'm very proud of this mix. I'm excited to get into this with you. Let's go and jump straight into it. And let's just start by just listening to it a little bit.
I don't want fancy things, but you don't seem to care. And I don't want anything, but I wanted you there. There I was, standing.
So the first thing I want to talk about today is something that came up in my home studio community call today. We were listening to some student mixes. One of the students said, hey, I'm really struggling with this mix feeling thin. How to get more warmth and body out of it? And so we broke down what elements are actually in the song and what elements could bring out warmth in it. And at the end of the day, in his mix, there's only really one thing that would work. And we actually have the exact same case here. So I felt like it was a good lesson. So in this case, we have drums, we have bass. This is just kind of a textural feedback thing. It's not really a main layer. Just a couple of guitars and then a couple of vocals. That's the whole song. So where in that can I pull out warmth? Well, you can pull out warmth in vocals, but vocals are coming in and out. So you're not going to get your consistent fullness in your mix from that. You can pull out warmth and fullness from guitars. And if you have rhythm guitars, that's often the best place to do it. But in this case, the guitars are kind of doing this little stabby thing. They're just going in and out. So if those are really warm, it's just going to be boom, 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 boom. It's not going to be consistent full, right? So same kind of issue. So the only place we really have, because drums obviously do, same thing. It's just coming in and out. So the only place we have to have consistent full warmth in this mix is the bass guitar. And this song has it in droves. So if I just mute this bass guitar while the song is playing, listen to how thin this mix gets.
I don't want fancy things, but you don't seem.
And you can see it on an EQ. There's just a huge hole right here.
I don't want
It's not totally gone,
anything,
but it definitely dips.
but I want
Add in the bass, and it's now nice and consistent and full through there.
standing where
And if we listen to the bass, the key here is this range right here. This 200 to 500 hertz range. Now, if you're working in a song that has a ton of electric guitars or rhythm guitars or even acoustic guitars, and you want the warmth to come from those elements, then 200 to 500 hertz might not actually work on your bass. It might be clouding up, mudding up your mix. So it's actually not uncommon for me to have a pretty big cut or just reducing of some of those frequencies in that range because they're just muddying up the mix on the bass guitar. In this case, the other elements cannot bring that fullness and warmth in, so I need it from this bass. So this bass has a ton of that body and warmth in this 200 to 500 hertz range. Okay, so the two lessons there are that 200 to 500 hertz, that's where you get a lot of fullness and warmth from. And the second being that you got to analyze what your sources are and figure out where that's going to come from if you want a warmer, fuller sounding mix. Okay, the second one I want to talk about here is pan positions. Now, I have a default setting for most guitars in my mixes. I typically have a far left and far right position. Sometimes I'll pan them in verses, but in general, I want them big and wide to have a lot of width in my songs. Now, I had that initially on this song, but it really felt a little bit weird. And I didn't realize that at first, but I sent off the mix and I was like, something's not coming together on this. And our guitarist was like, yeah, these guitars feel really weird when they're panned fully left and right. So check this out. I'm going to put them to fully left and right and listen to how much they pull your attention from the lead vocal specifically.
I don't want fancy things, but you don't seem to care. And I don't want anything, but I wanted you there.
Now, the more rhythmic and the more space there is for something to pull your attention like that, these are doing the ding, dun, dun, dun kind of rhythms. When those come in and out, they pull me away from the vocal, right? If you're not listening on headphones, you're probably not going to notice that unless you're listening on good speakers or something. But on good headphones, it's very noticeable. Compare that to when we pan them a little under 50%.
I don't want fancy things, but you don't seem to care. And
I mean, the mix gets smaller, but that actually feels more appropriate for this song. Do we want this big, wide, huge mix for at least for this moment in the song? Not necessarily. It makes sense for it to be a little bit narrower, for it to be not 100% wide, but like we're watching a band playing, like we're watching people playing, not we're living inside this huge mix. A lot of times I love living inside a huge mix, but when you're thinking through what is the emotion of the song, what's the feeling that we're going for, and is anything distracting from the most important element, the vocals, it just clarifies your decision making. So hopefully, again, that's a helpful tip. Okay, my third tip, this is really specific, so I'll be quick on it. If you have ever used gang vocals in a song, it's a great way to add kind of energy and character. So for example, in this last chorus, we have these gang vocals that come in, and I'll mute them halfway through, and you'll notice that the vocals just feel way sparser, right?
I don't want fancy things, but you don't seem to care. I don't want anything, but I wanted you there.
Right? It definitely adds some width. It adds some just interest and another layer to this song. And a lot of times the way I like to do gang vocals is a ton of vocals, and you're just varying your position. You just keep your microphone in one position. You move your body around the room. Sometimes you sing at the wall facing away from the microphone. Sometimes you sing at the microphone, but from the furthest point in the room. Sometimes you cover your mouth with your hands. You just are changing the character of your voice in the room. You're capturing all of that energy. In this case, all that we had, because I worked within the confines of what we had, is the singer and his wife, who's the female singer on the song. They're both in the band, Philip and Rebecca, just sang together 3 passes. And that's all I had. So I have 6 voices. And I have enough that I can have center, left, and right, but that's all I had. So if I take away this one plugin here, it immediately feels much smaller. Check this out.
I don't want fancy things, but
Add this on.
you don't seem to care.
It's still just the 6 voices, but now they're taking up a lot more space, and you have this sense of them in a room. Now, you could do this with a different room reverb plugin, but I really like this Sound Cities plugin from UAD because it just makes me think more like I'm producing the recording than like I'm just pulling up a reverb plugin and moving a couple of knobs, right? It's much more creative. I feel like it feels like I'm making music. I'm not just mixing alone in my home studio, which is actually what's happening. Anyway, it's a subtle thing, but it really makes a big difference. So you don't necessarily have to get that plugin, but that idea of building around space around your gang vocals, and also just trying out gang vocals as a texture in your biggest moments of your songs, it's a cool thing to play around with. Okay, so that's the first 2/3 of the song. Then the song totally changes, and it switches to being this kind of small, just guitar and telephony vocal thing, and then drums come in and Mellotron come in. We'll talk about that, but let's listen to it first.
Waited so long for what you need. Handing it out in the streets. You were dying to read. That was all at your feet. Waited so long, not with me.
Okay, so very different than the first part. I like this. I always like songs that have switch ups. But the first thing I want to talk about is this Mellotron here. So this is just a stock Logic plugin, and by the end, it is the only thing really that you're hearing. It's a string part. And a Mellotron is a very famous synth, and this is a great way if you want strings and you're struggling to get them to sound realistic, but you're okay with maybe like a less realistic sound, but a great string sound. A Mellotron string sound is just awesome. I mean, it's just so cool, right? So I'm only doing two things mixing-wise here. I'm doing a little bit of wider to just give it a little bit of space, a little bit of width, and then this is just a free plugin from Polyverse. And then I'm doing just a little bit of a plate reverb, and I just threw it on here specifically because I just wanted to dial in the exact length, and that's all I really needed for this song, or for this source. You don't always have to use synths. You should use synths in a lot of cases, but you don't always have to. But let me show you how to pull up that plugin in case you're curious about it. You can just create a software instrument, and then under your instrument here, under Vintage Keys, the Vintage Mellotron, and then I have my little musical typing up here. You can just hear. So that's the default. If you just switch one of these sounds to the string section, or even you could do both and do a blend. With this one, I believe is basically just an octave up. So this is just a blend between this side and this side. Maybe it's even higher than that. I'm not exactly sure. And then you could blend that with not an octave up. And then that's it. It's a pretty simple tool, but it sounds really great in a weird, non-great way. Sometimes not great things can actually sound really cool. So yeah, try out a Mellotron if you've never played around with one. But let's talk about the last little point I have for the song, which is going back to pan positions. Pan knobs are just such a fundamental part of mixing. And it's very common to get just in your default lanes and to just follow like default things that happen in music. So for example, drums are almost always pan just up the middle, at least the kick and snare drum. And that's often the right way to do it for most songs. Just kind of sticking with that is great, largely because the center is where you have the most energy in a mix. So putting your highest impact, highest energy things right up the center makes a lot of sense. But for this song, I wanted it to feel a little bit weird at the end, feel a little bit unique. And so I just played around with the mics that I had on this drum kit in all sorts of different positions until I landed on something I was just inspired by. So I have my kick in to the right. I have my snare and top and snare bottom all the way to the left. And then I have this crotch and room mic, which are just basically the crotch mic is over the kick drum pointing at the snare, and the mono room mic is just my podcast mic pointed away at the wall, facing away from the drums. And those are panned to the right. So they're giving you this cool sound over here in the right ear. And then you have the snare going on in the left ear. Kick is a little quieter, but it's giving you a little something in the right ear. And then you just have a little bit of the normal room sound, a little bit of the normal overheads, kind of blending it so it's not feeling super weird and sparse. But still you get this, and you put that in this mix when the drums come in right here.
You were dying to read. That was all at your feet.
Yeah, it just, there's something about it. It matches the emotion of this moment for me. It's a little bit, it's not unsettling, but it's just not exactly what you're used to hearing. And if you're listening on headphones, it just has a cool thing. We used to be way more experimental with pan knobs and pan positions, especially in early stereo mixing. People basically just do all the same thing in all of their mixes, and why not try things every once in a while, right? Last point is I also am using this layered with, this is just a drum loop for the main drum sound, but I layered on these drums. And it's just a cool little textural element. So those are not on their own doing the exact same thing, but they're emphasizing the rhythm. And then just something about that weird panning just adds an extra textural layer to that drum loop sound. So yeah, just playing around pan positions, experiment, try things, right? Okay, so that's Waited So Long, the final song on Broke Oriel's new album, Campr. If you've watched all these videos, please let me know in the comments below. I'm super curious how many people got a lot of value out of these. I know this is different than my normal video, but I felt like it was a cool different, a little bit more interesting in some ways, but no, it's not for everybody. So if you have enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments below. And I got a ton of fun stuff coming up over the next couple weeks that I've been holding back since January as we were working on finishing this record. I had all these ideas, but I knew I wanted to do this first. So point being, we got a ton of fun stuff coming up on the channel. I can't wait to share it with you. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to do that and leave a comment down below. I'll see you in another video real soon.